This is the MO Sessions podcast, where we talk about magic ways to become a better magician to be good to your magic. I'm your host, Benny Slade, and I couldn't be any more thrilled that you are here. Welcome to another episode of the MO Sessions. I'm your host, Benny Slade, and today I have the privilege of sitting down with a friend and someone who's local this time, Steve Langston. He is the current IBM president for Ring 9 here in Atlanta, Georgia. Steve, thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Benny.
I figured I'd start with the story, part of the reason of why you're here, of how I met you and the influence it had on me. Coming back into magic, it wasn't easy for me to go to a local ring. Well, actually, I didn't even know that a local ring existed here. So when I was getting back into magic, I was very hesitant based on just some previous friends saying a lot of crazy things about the IBM and the SAM and coming to the rings and the meetings. And so I had a buddy of mine say, go try it out, see how it is. And then it almost felt like going to an AA meeting, um, which is really interesting, which is a different topic for another time and not on this podcast. But and I went, and it was at a church, which I thought was very interesting because most magicians are not religious at all.
Right.
So I showed up, and you guys had this awesome. It was like a music room, I guess, or a choir room, and you guys went through your whole thing. And I don't mean, were you in a leadership role at that time, like right before the
Yeah, I believe
pandemic?
when you first came in, I was the, membership chairman
Okay.
of the,
And so I sat there and I was like, this is interesting because everyone's kind of hesitant to show some magic. And there were a few people there who performed some things. And then there was an intermission, or maybe it might have ended, or I don't know what you guys call it. And then you were the first person, you kind of like side eyed me when I sat down. Like, I think this is somebody new. And I was like looking around, and Chris said he was supposed to come that night and he did not. And a couple other people who were members then said they were going to, and they did not. So I was by myself, and you came up to me and you talked to me, and you were very kind to me. And, well, what kind of magic do you like? And, what do you do? And yeah, from then on, I was like, I like this guy. He knows what he's talking about. And you do card magic. And I was like, this is great. And at that point, I was very serious into the card magics. Yeah.
Awesome,
So
man.
thank you so much for being kind. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here to have a little chat with us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah, when I first joined the club, I felt kinda the same way. You kinda feel like an outsider coming in, you don't know anybody. It's a little nerve-wracking for sure. It is kind of odd that it's at a church because 'cause I'm not religious myself, but it's,
Hmm.
just a room that we rent, we get a great deal on, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took me 3 meetings maybe before people even warmed up to me and started talking to me when I
Yeah.
first joined. I almost didn't stick it out, you know? But eventually made friends, and I decided when that I got into leadership in any form that I wanted it to be as welcoming as possible. I didn't
That's
want people
awesome.
to feel out of place in any way.
Hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. When I saw you come in, I knew I had to get to know you. Um, you know, in a lot of magic clubs, it's an older crowd, but we've kind of changed that at our club as best we can. And so I knew immediately when you were around my age that I wanted to make friends with you, and finding out you're into card magic was bonus. So
Yeah,
I'm really
absolutely.
glad we hit it off and have stayed friends.
Yeah, absolutely. You also were an original supporter and member of the podcast when I started
Mhm.
it. You were very curious to what I was doing and
Mhm.
what happenings I had going on, and I think we had some good times. We also had a lot of bad times on the Discord and stuff back in the day, which was a learning lesson for sure.
Yeah, Discord was
So
interesting. Mhm.
thank you for your continued support. And so,
Absolutely, man.
yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing that, you're hitting out of the park with everything you're trying to do, man, and pushing magic forward. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I've kind of just decided to reframe it from the time I started the podcast until I let it, the way I say it, just kind of fall by the wayside, up until picking it up and looking at it and being like, there was something there, and putting it all together and kind of refocusing it differently because my magic theory and politics and all that stuff have changed significantly.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it was about making magic better and how we can do that. And I felt like I had a platform to do that. So
Absolutely. It's an
yeah,
awesome thing you're doing.
thank you. I appreciate it. So let's start at the beginning. How did you get into magic? Was there a family member who showed you an effect? Was
Mhm.
there a trip to Disneyland Magic
Mhm.
Store? What's your origin story?
Oh man, probably like a lot of kids from the '80s, it was David Copperfield on TV, and those magic specials that would happen. I think like after Thanksgiving dinner and stuff, just about every year when I was growing up. You know, maybe 7, 8 years old, seeing Copperfield and just getting real into magic and being amazed. You know, I went and saw him live at the Fox when I was just a kid. Saw him fly over my head, you know, and I was hooked. And from that moment on, I wanted to get a magic kit or something every Christmas, every birthday, you know. And I think when I was maybe 10, me and a neighbor friend of mine, my age, we each got like magic kits for Christmas. And we loved playing with them, showing each other stuff, practicing. And my folks were like, you guys should put on a show. I'm like, oh gosh, okay. And they're like, go around to the neighbors and try and sell tickets, see if you can make some money. And so we went walked the neighborhood and sold tickets for like $2 a pop. Sold way more than people that showed up. Maybe they were just being nice.
Right.
But we put on a little 30-minute magic show in my backyard to 15 or so kids and parents, and we're hooked from that point on. I loved it growing up, but it was probably by the time I was in high school, or just before high school, I stepped away from magic almost entirely. Got into sports, played three-sport athlete in high school, and all of that, girls, whatnot. So it kind of fell to the wayside, and it wasn't until I started my career in 2005, the job that I'm still in today, is my day job. And a guy that I worked with just happened to be a magician, and he was really good. He would do a couple of side gigs, maybe two a year. I mean, but big time hobbyist and really good. And he fooled the pants off me with a bill change. And my head exploded. I didn't even think of a TT or any kind of
Hmm.
method. It was there. It's changed. It's gone. I was floored, and I said, "You got to teach me this stuff." I was into magic as a kid. You got to show me what you're working with. And he kind of took me under his wing a little bit and mentored me for a number of years, and we did a lot of stuff together. And he just said, "Man, you're picking this stuff up quick." You know, showed me a few slides on cards, and he's like, "Yeah, these look smooth, man. You're picking this up. You could do this." And so at that point on, probably since '05, it's been an everyday thing.
Really?
So
That's
yeah.
awesome. Do you feel like there's been a difference in your practice or progression in magic that you said, maybe I can start performing this live or I can actually make this semi pro or
Yeah. So me and him, his name was Justin, and we would try to create things. It was the early days of YouTube, maybe '06. We started putting a couple things out there and got a good response. And we created a couple of effects. We created a website and we tried to sell a couple things and had a couple random sales. We didn't know anything from start to finish on how to promote or anything like that. And then one day our hard drive crashed. We lost everything, and that was the end of that business venture. uh, but that was sort of being a hobbyist and being a creator is sort of where that took off.
Mhm,
It wasn't until I joined the club that I really started getting my performance chops. The greatest thing about a magic club is being able to try things out, being able to be in front of a group of people and perform with, you know, with, with no pressure, basically. Things
mhm.
can go wrong and it's not a big deal because these are all your friends, these are all your magicians. And so getting up and performing multiple times every month at the club really got me thinking that, hey, man, I could turn this into something. I could go out and perform. And, you just get a lot more comfortable doing that, to where I said, let's try and get some gigs, set up a website. Let's make this into a real side business. And so from there, I just started doing nowadays. I do a lot of corporate strolling stuff. I do very little stage, but I do a lot of parlor gigs, things like that, house parties and stuff. And man, I love it. I love performing. I got a gig next week and tomorrow, and another one next week.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm trying to do as much as I can. Hopefully, turn this into a full time gig one of these days. But man, it is tough to think about giving up that paycheck, that
Yeah,
guaranteed paycheck.
right.
So
I think that's everyone who has a steady job and is a magician, always the fear,
yeah,
that
yeah.
crossover. I know you kind of as a card magician, I guess, in my mind, a cardician. Do you perform anything? Like, I'm curious to know, do you
Mhm.
do coin work? Do you do
Yeah, I sort of do it all these days. Definitely card magic was my first love, and something that I put probably the most practice into, and the most work into. But nowadays, when I'm actually out performing, if I'm doing a strolling gig, I will have maybe 5 card tricks that I do, and the rest is all kind of close up stuff.
Mm,
So I'll have maybe 3 or 4 sets, and each set will have maybe 1 card trick in it, and then it'll have an opener and a closer that are probably not cards. Um, I really have gotten a passion for close up these days.
mhm,
I love using everyday objects, coins especially, rings, strings, you
yeah,
name it. I love all of Magic nowadays, to where I don't even practice my card Magic as much as I used to or should.
yeah,
Gotten to the point where I feel like I've learned so much that I've focused more in on honing those workers in,
mhm,
honing in the things I'm going to do in my stage show or my parlor show or my strolling, and it's rare that I might find a piece to swap something out with,
yeah,
even with all the new stuff that comes out these days.
yeah,
Um,
100%. I think from I primarily started in card magic, and probably about a year ago, I just decided I kinda hit a not a wall with card magic, but it's like I kinda learned everything I wanted to learn, and I'm using what I wanna use. So I opened up the Johnny Thompson books, and I was like, "Let's learn some foundations of close-up magic, classic magic,
yeah.
and knife changing routine, and cups and balls is kind of my bread and butter right now, really trying to get all that down." And but it's
Right.
interesting you said, you kinda talked about your set having 5 pieces of card work in it, and sometimes. I think it's that's I'm working on a show personally. Challenge was, we know the card work, we don't know coins, we don't know cups and balls, we don't know other objects, doing magic with, close up with other objects. And working on my show, I was literally just talking about this last night. I've created a set list, gotten feedback on, I did 2 full dress rehearsals and have gotten feedback on it, and not every piece is the best. So it's kind of like trying to figure out what to put in and what not to put in. Can you talk about like, for different venues, how do you
Mhm.
come up with what pieces you want to put in and don't, and or do you have a streamline of like they all work in all those venues, but my opener and
Um,
closer is a little bit different?
Yeah, each venue is a little bit different, it maybe it's even a little bit of selfishness, because I know so much stuff that
Right,
I've got so many good things that I want to perform all the time. you know, sure, my strolling stuff would work in a close up like parlor situation or house party or something like that, but I know all these other cool things. So what I'll
right,
do is I'll kind of hone in my 4 or 5 sets of strolling, and then I'll try to say, let's not use any of these things and build another show
right,
of a close up parlor. And the plots may be similar within them, because certain plots that I really love in Magic. But I'll try and find different things that I could make fit in there, that are going to be separate, so that if people do see me or hire me for strolling, and then they decide they want me for a different type of venue, now I've got a different set that I can show them, a different show that I can perform. Um, yeah, so I do try to mix it up in that aspect quite a bit, but a lot of my strolling stuff has sort of been cemented now for the past couple years, probably plus or minus one thing if something comes out, and I want to fit it in there, try it out. But
Right.
yeah, um,
Well,
I, I I love thinking about what can go together, what can
mm,
fit into a set and how things can flow from one to the next
mhm.
and how you can open strong and finish stronger.
It's a
Like you said, there's
challenge.
so many things out there that you do that you're like, well, this didn't hit as hard,
Mhm.
and I love it, but maybe it's a middle piece, or maybe I know so many good things that everything should be quote unquote closer material,
Right.
and cut out all the things that I might love but just don't hit as hard. So
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
process.
It's a challenge because
Abs-
I don't want to talk about the format on here, but it's a very classic format that I was trying to follow and then just
Mhm.
finding pieces to fall into place.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. So
Right.
some of the
Yeah.
pieces don't work. So it's like now I'm researching what I do want to do, and it's harder. I talk about this on another episode. It's harder than people, or I should say magicians who are learning how to write a show or a script or get into it. It's harder than you think because when you're practicing, for me personally, I'm going through the script in my head or the patter, which I hate that word, but you're going through the routine. And for instance, my cups and balls, when I do the wand spin, I have patter there. And the
Yeah.
timing for the patter and the wand spin has to be right on point, or else it doesn't look good.
Or you could throw yourself off,
Yeah, throw myself off
Mhm.
and then going into the next, and the flow too. You talked about the flow and fluidity of a set is really interesting too, because curating it all to where it does flow is much
Mhm.
harder than a lot of magicians think, I think.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a challenge, and it's something that it's a trial and error, right? You got
Yeah,
to go out there
100%.
and try it, and hey, tweak this, tweak that. This didn't flow. This didn't work. What can I say here? So yeah, a lot of it's just going out there and doing it.
Yeah,
Seeing what works, and actually in your head, everything feels like it could work, right?
yeah.
But when you get out there in front of people, monkey wrenches get thrown at you, right?
Not so much. I feel like every magician has that one routine that might resonate them with a little bit more than others and that they perform. Is there one for you that is kind of maybe your bread and butter and that's personal because you put so much time into it? Or is there one that resonates with you personally?
Um, yeah, I guess, one of the most fun things I like to do, and I do it every time I do strolling. I even have put it in, it kind of, the one thing that's maybe broken the rule of trying to have different things in different areas, because I end up doing it so much in every area,
Mm-hmm.
would probably be ring and string.
Mm,
I love doing ring and string, borrow a ring. The props, everything can be out in the open, examined. It's a technical sleight of hand thing, which is fun for me to practice and do. But it's so many moments of magic in that, continued penetrations, and I always end it with a possible location at the end.
mm,
Maybe I'll do it in a different way at the end, on occasion. But yeah, I really love that routine. It always seems to get good response, and there's a lot of areas for, comedy or laughs or lines, that you can
right.
throw in throughout it. So yeah, I love a ring and string routine, definitely.
You've since last time we spoke or saw each other, you kind of dove into creating a couple of effects and put them out and everything. Can you talk about, you have corner piece and your new one is free thought.
Mhm.
Can you
Yeah,
talk
man.
about those effects a little bit and the creative process behind them, and then how do you know when to put them out?
Right. Yeah, so the first thing that I put out came out like January 1st of this year, was Corner Piece through Penguin Magic. It's my visual torn and restored card effect. Yeah, I've got a good friend in Magic that I jam with all the time. In fact, I think he's coming over a little bit later on the day, and that's Sean Ridgway, who you might have seen on Penn and Teller Fool Us, things like that. But he's a very creative guy, and he'll come over, or I'll go over there, and we'll jam till all hours. And one night we were jamming. It was a late night, and we got talking about specific plots in Magic that we like. And I said, I've always loved Torn and Restored card. I've learned almost every method out there, and practiced them all. And I've never really found one that works perfect for me. Where it can be less angly, It can be more visual, and it can be, of course, kept as a souvenir at the end. And so we got talking about it, and we ended up jamming for hours and hours on, here's a method I know for this thing, here's a method I know for that. And then, Sean had an idea about a method that he got from, that wasn't from magic, just a different video that he saw, and one thing clicked together, and he said, huh. And he started talking about it, and so we ended up putting some things together, creating some gaffs, and it worked beautifully. And from then on, it was hammering out handlings. Worked on we individually worked on handlings for a number of weeks until we finally got it honed in, and then each of us went out and we were performing them in our gigs. Um, and then we probably worked on them, performed them for about a year. Uh, yeah, maybe about a year, maybe a little longer. And yeah, I guess it was maybe 2 years because it took a while for it to actually get produced. So during that time, we created a number of different routines with it that were completely different from one another, but all kind of incorporated that torn and restored portion of it. And so I said, this is something that I think other people would like. Since I've looked at so many torn and restored cards, and this is what's going to be the solution for me,
Mhm.
maybe it'll be the solution for others. And so it was at the IBM convention in Atlanta like 3 years ago. I went and saw Eric Tate there. And I didn't know him, I never met him, but I pulled him aside in a little corner of the hallway, and I said, "Hey, buddy, I got this torn and restored card that me and my friend came up with. We've both been using it, getting great reactions. People love it. We love doing it. Maybe it's something you guys might be interested in." And he said, "Yeah, show it to me." And I showed it to him one time, and he goes, "Oh man, can I film this? I got to send this to the guys at Penguin. This is awesome. I love it." Like he was hyping me up on it. I didn't even know it was that good. He was really hyping me up on it. And I'm like, yeah. So he filmed it. He shot it over to the guys at Penguin, to Sean and Nick, and they got back to him pretty quick and said, "Yeah, we really like this. Let's work on something together." And that's when Eric put me together with Sean, who does all of the talent signing and things over there at Penguin, and ended up, doing a deal. And it was maybe 6 months or more after that, sometime last March, they flew me and Sean out to Ohio and took us out to the bars and showed it to a lot of people and took us in studio and filmed it. Awesome experience. Never been to Penguin before. Getting to see all those things you see on demos for the tricks you love and all the places, and actually being there doing it was pretty surreal. In studio, meeting all the guys, and just an absolute blast of a weekend. Um, and then from then on, it was about trying to get the right materials, getting the right product, signing off on it, and then finally they went to market with it, and it's gotten a really good response so far. Everybody that I know has gotten it, that's reached out to me, has said good things, and so I'm very happy, very pleased with it, man. I'm excited that people are out there doing it.
That's very
So
cool. Very cool.
yeah.
And free thought, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so after Penguin was kind of successful with Corner Piece, me and Sean kind of began to push each other. What's next? Let's keep this cart going down the road, right? And so if I didn't have him there pushing me, if I wasn't pushing him, you know, other things may not have fallen into place. I owe a lot to him as a friend. But he said, "I know you got a card trick that you put together, and I love it. You should really try to get that out there." And it was tough because I had to create an entire deck myself, do a lot of DIY, put some things together. It was the original prototype was a little pretty ugly, but it did the job. And so I just started sending videos out to every company I could. And I think originally Penguin had quite a line of things in their queue. So they weren't they said it's great, but we just need time before we can fit that in. And so sent it to a number of other places, and TCC jumped on it.
Right.
They loved it, and they've been great to work with too. They reached out to me, they wanted it. Worked back and forth with Jay Wong over there at TCC on design, and finally getting it where we wanted it. And they got it printed up for me, and got it released a couple weeks ago. And so now it's available on TCC's website. Actually, I think on sale right now through the end of the month, which is great if you want to go out there and pick it up. But yeah, it's a card trick that uh, has a bit of a mental feel. I got a lot of inspirations from other things, obviously, from a number of different creators that sort of inspired my thought process along the way. And then it's sort of a thought of card in a deck vanishes and then reappears facing the wrong direction in the deck, almost like an invisible deck type feel, but with a thought of card. You remove that card and set the deck down, and then you explain to them that it wasn't that I read your mind. It was more that I implanted a thought in your mind. You see, the card you thought of was never there. And I turn over that face down card. It's now blank. And then at the end, you say, that's because this trick actually never happened at all. And you spread the entire deck, and now everything is turned blank. So it's got a real kind of cerebral, mental feel
So
to
good.
it for a card trick. So I love it. People have really enjoyed it when I go out doing it too. So I hope people get some use out of it.
It's very cool. I watched the video, popped up on my email, and I was like, Steve Langston, TCC. And I popped it up, and I was like, that's really good.
Nice.
That's really
Thank you,
good.
man.
Yeah. I wasn't
Thank
sure what to expect because there's a lot, there's a few things floating around out there that's like, okay, so we have like a invisible deck situation, and then it's kind of like a triumph situation on some
Mhm.
effects, and it's interesting. It's not a
Yeah.
lot like that right now.
Yeah. What's great is you can really kind of make that trick your own too. You don't have to go by the way that I do it. You can make the thought of card appear anywhere. It can be in your pocket. It can be, on the chair behind them, under your mat. So the thought of card can then appear anywhere, which is really cool portion of it. But you can, it's almost, I guess you'd say maybe modular, where people can take it any way they want. So I'm really excited to see people get their hands on it and maybe come up with different routines for it that I
Yeah,
hadn't thought of.
hundred
But
percent.
tried it a lot of different ways, and it's always gotten good responses. So I'm excited.
How do you practice? How do you? There, I know, we know a lot of magicians who practice many different ways. Some of them don't even need to practice before they go on. Is there, and privately,
Mhm.
I have a good buddy of mine who he just practices, just runs through everything he's reading and learning, and he's an encyclopedia.
Yeah, man. I would say practice has changed and morphed over the years, many different ways. But kind of like you had said before, where you feel like you've almost learned everything you want to learn in certain times, and you maybe get bogged down. When it comes to learning new effects, I feel like I have the sleights in my repertoire that I like and I like to use, and so oftentimes I'll read a new effect and it'll say, use this method to control it to here or whatnot. And I sort of ignore that method and plug in my own and
Right.
try and kind of make it my own. But so I'm not learning a lot of new things in Slight World, I guess.
Hmm.
Of course, always ideas and effects and stuff, but I just sort of practice what I'm going to perform. I run through things a lot from start to finish. I've gotten real big into scripting my magic, especially when it comes to shows. I even did it for close up and strolling originally, but the fact that I've done that so often now, things flow. It's just in the head. But I don't script just to go by the script. It's more of a framework to be able to read. A lot of times I'll read through my script without even performing and just thinking through the effect in my head as I'm reading it. And that helps me kind of visualize what's going to happen. Um, and then when I'm actually out there performing, I may stick on script, I may not. It's more of a flow situation
Hmm.
at that point. But I like to structure magic. I like to script it, and then when it comes to actually physically practicing, occasionally I'll sit down at a table like I am right now and just run through things start to finish quite a bit. Or sometimes I'll just stand in front of the TV downstairs and practicing on my tall desk down there, and going through them from start to finish. Sort of what I do.
Yeah. Do you enjoy writing? Are you?
Writing,
Yeah.
yeah, I do enjoy writing. I enjoy script writing. I also enjoy writing effects. During the pandemic in 2020, I was working remote from home the entire year, and uh, having a lot of downtime in between things at my job, I was writing a book. And so I didn't set down to write a book. I said, you know what, I've got a lot of these original card routines that I love doing. I don't want to forget them. So let me write them down and explain them to myself so I have them. And as I wrote down the effect, wrote down the explanation, and I said, you know, I like scripting my shows. Let me script these out as well. I wrote out the scripts and things. And then before I knew it, I almost had a complete book that
Wow.
was written
I didn't
at
know
that
that.
point. So I had 20 something effects written down, hundreds of pages. And I said, wow, maybe I can produce a book one of these days. And that was before I had released anything. I hate to say that now I'm back in the office. That book has kind of fallen by the wayside. Every time I open it to edit it, I get super self-critical of myself, which is a hard thing to
Yeah.
get over. You want it to be perfect, and it's tough to reread a book over and over again to edit.
Right.
But I definitely do hope to put that out one day, or at least a portion of that out here pretty soon, and kind of keep riding that wave. But yeah, I really do love writing when it comes to magic, for sure.
It's very cool. I find myself, I've always loved writing, but I find myself as I'm diving more into this and working on some other non-magic projects, writing is almost therapeutic.
Yeah, it definitely can be. And I think I maybe have read one of your short stories or something that you had put out a couple years
Yes.
ago. Yeah, so
Yes.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I've never been a fiction reader or writer because uh, I got a lot of respect for people that can do that. That's something I can't do. you know. But so I read a lot of nonfiction, of course, magic books, but then I love to read science books, things like that. I love to learn, constantly learning about anything and everything I can, that way. So that's sort of what I like to read. But big
Yeah.
props to people that can write fiction, man. That's tough.
Yeah. I've taken a break from, like, I have a couple magic books that I keep close by a lot and all the time, but lately, like right here on my desk, I'm reading a lot of Stephen King, and he has a book on writing and that whole thing. I'm working on, it's funny you
Oh,
say my short story because I'm working on a sequel to that. And
nice.
then I'm taking that and I'm in the middle of a screenplay for it.
Really?
So
Oh,
I'm
congrats,
turning
man.
it
That's
into
awesome.
yeah, so it's been interesting. I know absolutely nothing about screenwriting or anything, so
Yeah,
went
that's
to the
got to be a whole nother
library.
animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta have like a certain program to get the format and everything. And um yeah, I was talking to a buddy of mine and he's like, you can definitely turn that into, a whole universe because there's characters in there, and
Yeah.
I had zero intention of that. I was literally, I love Halloween. This season is my favorite. I got married around this time, and horror movies is my bread and butter. So I wrote the short story and had it revised once and put it out, and a lot of people liked it. I was actually really surprised by that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. Yeah, I love Halloween's second favorite holiday. So,
Do you do any sounds so bad. I'm sorry to say this on the podcast. As we go into the Halloween season, do you have any like effects that you put a Halloween theme to or anything like that?
um,
That's so bad to say.
not so much. No, I mean, there's certainly around this time you pull out some of the things that sort of fit that theme, I guess
Mhm.
you'd say. But no, not really. I don't try to design just a Halloween type show. I'll just throw a few extra things, maybe some levitation type stuff in there,
Cool.
manipulate or things moving around, things like that, or a little more mental flair into things around that time for sure.
That's cool. We'll segue into the IBM. I kind of want to talk to you about. I didn't realize you were membership chair when I met you,
Yep.
or so
Yep. That
now
was my
your
first.
leadership role has changed. Talk to me a little bit about that, how that kind
Sure.
of came about, and
Yeah, man. So we've got a great ring at Ring Nine. I mean, I think we've had more IBM presidents come out of Ring Nine than any other ring. The current IBM president for international is part of my ring as well. And I mean, we've got 120 or so members. We get huge turnouts. It's a lot of fun now. It's really evolved since I first got into it. with our club. But I was membership chair for a year, helping to kind of try and bring back some of the youth into the club. You know, I, I say youth, but you know, youth at a Magic Club means 40 and under probably. But we've done a really good job of doing that when I was membership chair, and then from then I got elected as vice president, and I did 2 years as VP under Eric Schuster's administration, I guess you'd say. And that was a lot of fun. We really wanted to revamp the entire club atmosphere. We wanted more performing. We wanted more inclusivity. We wanted it to be open and comfortable for everybody there, and we wanted retention. We wanted to retain members, you know, and it's fun to make friends, right? And we've created a lot of different things within the club. We've got our upcoming auction and flea market this month that we do every year. I created a book club within the club, which has been a lot of fun. And we do outside meetups all the time, things like that. But I did 2 years as VP. That was a lot of fun. We even created a members only podcast that we did, teaching tricks to each other, where we did like 52 episodes of that, and that's for our members, and a lot of content on the website, revamped the website and stuff. Then I became president. This is now my second year as president. So I've been in leadership a long time now, and I feel like we've grown. Everybody seems to have a lot of fun. It's become kind of a second family for me, man. You know, I love these guys that I get to see all the time on a regular basis. Atlanta's got a great Magic scene. And it's always growing, and we're always trying to get more people involved. And I really love doing it a lot.
Absolutely. What's
Yeah.
been the most rewarding or fulfilling part about being, maybe not in each role, but just in
Mhm.
general, your
Sure.
leadership with the IBM?
Yeah. So when I became president, I sort of had three main things that I wanted to sort of attack throughout the year, and that was growth, growth and retention and membership, which I feel like we've done a really good job of, constantly growing every year. Super proud of that. I also wanted to create a community committee. You know, because we have so many great people in our club, and there's a lot of great things we can do for our community, you know, and give
Mhm.
back. And I think that's a great thing to be able to do. And so, in creating the community committee, I wanted to find opportunities to help other, maybe nonprofits and things throughout the area. And if all we can give back with is Magic, let's do it. You know, or any other ways we can think of. But we were able to put on shows for the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta and Children's Hospital, and do a few shows for them to help their fundraising needs, that we did, you know, pro bono. And a lot of our members stepped up to be able to do those sorts of things. We're doing a few of those this year as well. We did with the an organization for battered women, and we've been able to put on a few shows to help them fundraise more. And it feels really good, man, to give back and to be able to grow the community that you live in, for the better in any way that you can.
Mhm.
And Magic really makes people happy, so I'm super proud of that. Um, and then sort of the third prong I wanted to do was fundraising for the club. You know, I want longevity within this club. I want it to live on. Our club is coming up on the 100-year mark next year, so we will be a 100-year-old club at that point, which is really awesome. And I want the club to continue to live on. So the community things help to get sponsorships for the club as well, which is great. So everything sort of plays off one another, building that membership to have that longevity, bringing that average age down a little bit, and getting the youth involved. We've got some really young members too that are going to be the future of Magic, I think. And so I think we're in a really good place right now. And I'm really excited about where I'm going to leave things when my term is up.
Yeah. Since I stopped going, it seems like it's grown so much, like to an impressive point where I'm just like, they're
Thank you.
really got the idea of what they wanted it to be, and they focused on reaching their goals. And it seems like you guys are really having that come into fruition. So that's great.
Yeah, thank you, man.
That's
Thank you.
great.
I'm glad it's getting seen out there because it's been a real love and passion of mine the past 5 years now that I've been in leadership. So
Do you guys have a lot of younger magicians who are coming in, or
yeah, we do. We've got at least a handful of teens probably that are in there every month performing, getting better every day. I love to be able to kind of take people under, I guess, like, sort of under my wing and lead them and mentor them as much as I can and help them out. And that's been a whole lot of fun. We do magic meetups outside of the club meetings once a month as well, where a lot of those guys and a lot of the kids come to learn. And they're great, man. They're going to be really good one of these days, and I'm real excited to see the future of the club because of these kids that we've been able to bring in there.
yeah, absolutely. For younger magicians starting out, what advice would you give them about approaching magic? Not necessarily in terms of technique, but the right mindset to kind of, kind of cultivate where
Yeah.
magic is going. Because we'll get into that maybe on another episode. But the current magic state has changed so much already.
Oh
So,
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, in some ways left me behind, but, yeah, as far as advice to these kids, I mean, magic is an entertainment, and while it's great to continue to hone your craft and to get better and better technically every single day, you gotta know that it's entertainment, but it's also a performance art. You have to perform it. It's not art unless you're performing it. And so you've got to get out there and put yourself in precarious situations and learn how to get out of them and learn how to make people enjoy your time with you. And it's not always about going on to the next trick, man. If people are happy and enjoying you, enjoying your company and being entertained, you could take a pause. You can get to know people, make connections, network through magic is a wonderful thing. Even with my day job, networking through magic has been phenomenal. And so, just remember that you're doing it for them and the people. You're not doing it for yourself as much as maybe the practice time is for yourself. But if you want to be an entertainer in a performance art, you got to go out there and share that with the world, and don't be afraid to fail and learn and get better. That's what it's all about.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's so many different facets of magic that are, starting out when we're younger. We just kind of see some books and videos and then effects and things like that. And we don't think about the bigger picture of what you can do with magic and where it can take you and all the different things. I look back on my journey a lot and often give, if I were to give myself younger advice about different things. And looking back on your own journey, is there anything you wish you had known earlier or something that you had to learn the hard way?
Oh man. You know, I just wish I'd have got started earlier. It was like when I said I got back into it in '05. It was a number of years before I actually went out there and started showing layman stuff. I mean, I felt like things had to be perfect and I wasn't good enough and I would mess up and I would fail. And a number of years there, I feel like I missed out on the opportunities that I'm having now, because I was scared, I was nervous, I was concerned and worried about being a performer. So I took too much time getting ready. It's sort of a paralysis by analysis, right? And I wish I'd have just sort of taken that leap a little bit sooner. Um, but I'm happy with where I am now. So maybe it was all for the best. But I would say if you can put yourself in situations, say yes more to opportunities. Um, Things are going to go faster and better for you in the
Hmm.
long run, I think.
Do you think about your legacy at all? I feel like you've contributed so much to magic already. From the time I've known you, that it's a huge ramp up, which is something to be truly proud of. That you've
Thank you,
turned your
man.
passion in, and you're doing things with your passion in many different facets. Is
Yeah.
there, is there anything that kind of makes you think about your legacy and where you want to go? And do you think about it at
Um,
all? I mean,
yeah, I guess so. I try to not get a big head about myself and always trying to keep my ego in check. If I can bring one person, enjoyment, then I feel like I've succeeded. But when it comes to the magic community and culture in Atlanta. I want to leave a good place for everybody to forward that magic, continue forwarding that magic. And I really feel like the club has been a great thing for me I guess when it comes to legacy, if you want to say it that way.
Mhm.
I want I want a place that's going to always be there for people in magic, a community, a brotherhood, where people can uh, help push each other forward. And if I can make that easier for people 10, 20, 30 years down the road by what I've done in the positions I'm in now, then it's definitely a success and a win, I think. I guess when it comes to creating, sure, it'd be nice if people remember what I've done in the years to come. When it came to torn and restored card, I loved Hollingworth's torn and restored card. It
Mhm.
was my favorite to do. Um, and when you mentioned torn and restored card, it was sort of the holy grail. Everybody knew Hollingworth, right? His is the one, and it probably still is. But I would hope that that came out 20, 30, who knows, years ago, and people are still talking about it like that. Hopefully, maybe one day people mention Horner Restored Card, and my name still pops up in there. That'd be pretty cool.
Hopefully, hopefully that would be awesome.
That'd be
When
cool.
I was doing torn and restored card, Garcia's was the kind of
Yeah.
go-to, and he came out with Torn 2 and improvements there, but Torn and restored card I have a love-hate relationship with because there's so many
Mhm.
versions of it. So it's
They
really
really are.
interesting that you created one and said this could be.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, people have said good things, and yeah, Garcia's, man, that was the first one that I went out and showed people. I mean, I did that all the time
Mhm.
until I worked up enough practice time to actually get that knuckle busting Guy Hollingworth version down, and then that sort of became my go-to until this. But yeah, a lot of people have said this is their answer to it, and hopefully that rings true in the future and years to come. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. Starting to wrap up, do you have any philosophies or particular teachings that kind of help you or guide you through your magic or in life in general?
Gosh, that's tough. Maybe you know, always try to kind of better yourself in all aspects of life. Really, what can you do better? How can you leave a better impact for the people around you? Um, you know, um, yeah, that's a tough one, man.
It's a good one, but it's a tough
That's
one.
a really good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, just always try to how can you make the people around you better? How can
Yeah.
a rising tide lifts all ships, right? And so
Mhm.
how can you kind of be that for the circle around you, and maybe expand that as far as you can?
What's next for you? Do you have any upcoming projects or do you wanna plug anything, or where can people check
Um,
you out? Where can they
yeah,
see your magic?
you had mentioned before about magic changing, and I said some things may be left behind. Being in my 40s now, I'm terrible with social media. I hate it. I'm awful with it. So I don't have a lot of stuff out there like the kids do these days. As far as just social media magic stuff like that to see. In my website, stevelangston.com, for performing and things like that, getting gigs. But really just check out the projects that I have. Hopefully in the future, in the near future, I'll get that book out there. And that's something that's going to be a real labor of love for me. A lot of all card stuff, pretty much. A lot of shuffle deck stuff, some memorized deck stuff. So I'm real excited that hopefully can be my next big project. So keep a lookout for that. Now I'm going to have to do it.
The last question I'll have for you, and then we'll sign off here.
Yeah.
What's the one piece of advice you would give a magician carving his own path out that could be hard for them to keep the passion of their magic alive? Um,
Mm,
there a lot of us fall out of it, we fall back into it, and then
yeah,
do you
definitely.
have anything?
Yeah, my magic journey has ebbed and flowed for sure. There's times where you get burnt out. That happened a lot more earlier in my career. I would say to kind of keep that at bay is to keep the right people around you. Always have a good community of magicians that can help push each other forward. And so that's where the club plays a huge part in keeping you focused and honed in on getting better. and getting your magic better. Um, but yeah, just always trying to strive to do a little bit better and entertain folks. Don't be so worried about being perfect. Nobody's perfect. Things fail every day. Obviously, try to minimize the bad and maximize the good. But get out there and take opportunities. If opportunities come to you, say yes. Say yes to opportunities, and see where it goes from there. Maybe not all of them are going to be good, but believe it or not, it's going to be more good than bad, and that's going to help to push your magic forward and push your career forward, simply by taking the opportunities that come your way and rolling with them.
Awesome. Thank you
All
for
right, buddy.
taking the time to sit down with me, and I should have you on again. It's a good
Hell yeah, man.
conversation.
I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see when the podcast comes out. Check out Corner Piece, check out Free Thought. But I love what you do, Benny. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep pushing magic forward, and keep succeeding, buddy. I love it.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for joining me on the MO Sessions. I hope you found some inspiration and insight to bring a little more magic into your world. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. For updates and further thinkings, the dope, or any of my essays, please see the links in the show notes. I'll see you next time, and remember, leave magic better than when you found it.